If it bothers you to see so many politicians botching the government of the country in debt and wars and various other things and excesses, the government just had to close because of politics. We don't have to put up with this sort of old-fashioned politics anymore. We can cut the Gordian knot of politics anytime we wish with a vote of the people. We need, on the bigger issues, a national referendum that is not the product of politicians. Now, in the old days, quick votes were not possible. So a quick vote of the people was not considered because it simply wasn't possible. In the old days, people lived usually on small farms in the country. In order to get to a polling booth, they had to take a horse or a mule or walk. And this was the days of sailing ships. It took 2 weeks after the War of 1812 was over for the news to reach New Orleans that the War of 1812 had been settled in England. But we do not have to put up with this kind of politics now. We have a choice. Modern technology has given us a choice that we did not have hundreds of years ago. People will say our founders didn't mean to do this. Of course they didn't mean to do it. They didn't know how to do it. It was not possible. But new possibilities change things. And we are entering a new era, a new epic time in democracy, when the voting of the people will matter and can matter, and it will not be a vote on a politician, it will be a vote on issues directly by the people. That is the point to remember. In a short period of time with modern technology, the country can have a vote on almost any issue. Let me give you a few asides here. In Estonia, 1/4 the vote is done online. In some other countries, identification is done by fingerprints that are flashed online. There is a situation now, and every day it is becoming better, that we will be able to have easy voting, incredibly easy by past standards, of the people on big issues. So there's no sense to be weighted down with the type of politics government is weighted down with. Let us say before the shutting and closing down of government, a quick vote of the people was taken. There would be no shutting down. But because we have stymied politicians of several bigoted parties fighting it out with no referee and no rules of a major nature to interfere with things, then we have these political stalemates that close government down. On big issues, we need a direct vote of the people that we can now easily have. Within a week, we can have a vote of the people on the big issues. Actually, it would probably take less than a week. And every year, things grow quicker and quicker. You can pick up a phone now that will recognize you by your fingerprint. Think of what this will do for ballots. We are in a position where we do not have anymore to dance around so much with politicians. This is the way the dance with the politicians work. The people are worried about problem A. The politicians, to get elected, tell them they will vote and solve problem A. The politicians are elected, and then they go to Washington to Site B that changes everything. And they are no longer in touch with the people, but having to survive among other politicians, where the basic rule is, if you vote for this for me, I vote for that for you. And what happens then is the politicians vote laws which are C laws. The people wanted A addressed. The politicians went to Washington and came under B pressure that they did not have at home. Then when the politicians often vote, they vote on C issues the people aren't even interested in very much, and issues that the people really feel do not address the issues they wanted to address. Now, this doesn't happen all the time, but how do we address this problem when it does happen so much? Politicians are disconnected from the people. The way to do that is simply do without the politicians and have a direct vote of the people on an issue as to what they want, the people want done, and that settles it. If we want to get something done in Washington today, the best estimate I could find of the shortest time is it takes 4 years to get any bill or anything through Washington because of the bitterness and opposition of the two parties. If one party says yes, the other party must say no. Because if the other party says yes to the party that brought up the proposition, then that party will receive credit for doing something, so the other party cannot have that because that's bad politics. And what I am saying is, with a vote of the people, we eliminate a good amount of politics. Now, we will not eliminate politics altogether. Politics will always be with us in largely every matter. But we are overburdened with politics. You ought to be able to tell that when the government has to close. Politics has become too important and a slowing, stymieing factor that pulls backward on getting anything done and on progress. Let us think about this. A simple vote of the people directly on the big issues, done quickly, a referendum. Many other countries have them, and a few states have them, referendums. Then the country knows how the people feel, what the people want. This eliminates a great deal of the long dance with politicians. Because when the people want to do something directly, can they do it? No. They must elect a politician to do it for them. All right? And then they are dependent upon someone else who may or may not do as they wish. Now, what the people need is a vote on the big issues. I realize you could not call a national vote on all issues because that would just take too long. The way things are can solve the smaller issues. But the really big issues, war, borrowing money, the size of the debt, taxes, all these are among the big issues that the people need to address. Affordable care was an issue that was carried by a party, and what should have happened was there should have been a vote of the people on it. This was the way to cut the Gordian knot of politics. But instead, politics often stymies, stalls, blocks the people. Because what the politicians are doing is playing good politics. And this isn't anything to be surprised at. The politicians are elected because they are good politicians. So when they go to Washington, the first thing they do is play politics. And politics has no set rule and can be played any way the people imagine. Let us remember a direct vote of the people, a referendum on national issues, and an initiative which is a ballot of what the people would like to have voted on. These two things can solve many problems. And one thing they can do is put the government back in touch with the people, because the people will have voted on the big issues. Right now, the politicians are, I would say, 80% out of touch with the people. Now, in a democracy, the government is supposed to be in touch with the people. But unfortunately, we get a democracy where the power has been taken away from the people, transferred to Washington, and God knows what will come out of Washington, as you can see. Now, what we need is votes of the people, so what the people want will go to Washington. Not what we have now, which is Washington decides what the people want, and Washington tells the people what they should or should not do, regardless of the people's feelings. Now, who gets to do this in Washington? Whichever politicians know how to make the best deals, and what for. I hope you get the change. We need a change from a government by the politicians in Washington who are out of touch with the people for various reasons. One reason they are out of touch at times is because they are interested in their own personal advancement. Another is they need to please the people, the votes in their party. And there are whips, majority whips and minority whips in Washington to keep these people in line in case they should decide they have a conscience. Okay? We have also the fact of lobbyists. And many politicians need to get their campaign expenses, which are enormous, paid for. And it is certainly not uncommon for the lobbyists to give the money. They call the tune. The politicians appropriately follow the tune laid down by the money of the lobbyists. And this doesn't happen always, but it happens enough to be alarming and to skew government. Skew means it tilts it away from the people, and that's the problem. Why do the people deserve a government of politicians skewed by other factors away from them? Let the people vote directly on big issues. This is the definition, or a definition, of democracy, the involvement of the people. Now, there are people who really don't want the people to vote because they feel like the people are an upsetting group. Now, what these people are doing in America or a democracy, I have no idea. But the definition of a democracy is where the people can vote. Okay? And that ought to be where the people can vote on issues instead of voting on representatives who do not represent them and who are wrapped up in party, lobbyists, and personal advancement, and any other factors there. Now, I feel that I am telling you a truth which you do not get every day. This truth is, we do not have to put up with the closure of the government. We do not have to put up with all this guff from politicians. Now they tell us, well, the way to do that is just vote one party. That is not the way to go. The parties already despise each other, have difficulty work together with each other, and there's no sense in making it work. Just have the people vote on the big issues. We can bypass layers of politicians. Now, we will still have some politics, and we will still have politicians voting on many minor issues, but to have a government of the people, by the people and for the people, you have to ask the people. And letting the people vote directly is asking the people. And this system is what is coming because it is being made technologically progressive fashion every year, every month. We are facing a new era in democracy, whether anybody wants to or not. But that era is, it is easy for the people to vote and easy for them to vote on issues. And sooner or later, the people will wake up and start voting on big issues everywhere. Now, I believe in more grassroots government. That is more decisions by the people all over the world, wherever it is needed. Now, there are some areas where there's very little grassroots democracy, others where there is more. But I am trying to bring more grassroots democracy to America by addressing the problem, which is the people can't be heard through politicians as they should be heard. And it is very simple to solve this problem. Just have the people, through modern technological means, vote directly on issues, and the problem is solved, and we may then go on. Now, why are you not going to hear this? Well, the first reason is the politicians don't want to lose any power, because to politicians, power is the essence of their advancement. So politicians aren't going to go out and say, give more power to the people. They are going to want to say, make the government more administrative and let all the power be in our hands, and we appoint the administrators of the people. And roughly you can make this, give more power to Washington so Washington can tell the people there what to do through administration. The politicians don't tell you that you can do, the people can do without the politicians very easily, and the people are needed as a safety guard of democracy against the politicians. What the politicians may do, like shut down the government. This should have been taken up, and the issues taken up by the people. The other group that is not going to tell you much about direct voting, they may try to call it populism. Oh horrors, the popular groups, the populists are heard. The media is all in favor of keeping the political system the way it is because the media make a fortune off the campaigns of politicians. And to bypass the politicians means that in many ways you are bypassing the elections and the expenses of those elections that the media make so very much money off of during political times. If the media went out and said, okay, if the people vote on this, the media would lose money. I don't think so. Remember, the media are there for profit. The media that you see every day are profit corporations. They are not non-profit institutions or corporations. They are profit corporations interested in making money. And this is not evil. A corporation is there to make money. And all I am telling you is by keeping the political system the way it is, the media make money. And they're not going to try to get the people to give up so much politics and go to direct voting of the people. The last thing that we should consider is we don't hear much about it because of the pressure of the bureaucracy. An enormous number of people are employed by the government as bureaucrats. Whether they are needed or not is sometimes true and sometimes not. But we have an enormous number of bureaucrats, and these bureaucrats don't want to shake up the status quo. And the status quo is every time the government in Washington, the politicians turn around, they set up a new bureaucracy. Setting up all this bureaucracy got to go by direct vote of the people. When there are new bureaucracies that are going to cost us money to be set up, the people should vote on them. But setting them up is not in the hands of the people. Instead, the politicians set them up. The people never ask for them, are rarely interested. Oh, of course, the people get these input meetings where if you go to talk negatively against it, you're out of it immediately because the people in Washington have decided you are going to do this no matter what. We have a government full of politics, run by politicians, both of which are very strongly, in many cases, alienated from the people. What we need to do is cut the Gordian knot of so much politics, and we can do this by a direct vote of the people on the big issues. Now, a direct vote of the people on the big issues is the essence of democracy. The essence of democracy. And this is the future. The people can vote. We are entering, and they can vote on issues easily. It used to be that people couldn't vote on issues because it was too hard and they had to get politicians to do it. Now, this is no longer the case. So I would urge you, cut the Gordian knot. That is the complicated knot the politicians have made of government, and have votes, referendums of the people, so that on the big issues, the people can cut through the politicians, and we shall see a true democracy at work.